I promised my rant about remaking video games at the start of the stream. I need to do that. How do I want to say this? So, I know I'm not old, but like in internet age terms, I'm in my mid-30s, so I'm like old in that sense, which means I grew up playing some old games because I didn't grow up for the most part playing new games. The only games I ever really played new were the Myst series. Everything else I played was from the bargain bin, right? So as a kid, I had the ability to, at my house, play the old Ultima games 1 through 6. Comanche Helicopter, which is a horrible game. I tried playing it as an adult, and it's a horrible game. All my feelings there were nostalgia. And the Myst series. And the Ultima games and the Myst series, I think, are really, really good. But when I try to share them with friends who didn't play video games back then, whether they're the same age as I am or they're younger, I notice that they almost always get frustrated when they play Ultima or Riven. And I was thinking about that today during work, and I think what's going on is, like, in the early 2000s, there was this standardization almost of game controls. That's when WASD and mouse controls became the thing in shooters and moving about stuff. That's when you started getting kind of the concept of a proper amount of floatiness for a character in a third-person action game. And so on and so forth. And I think what's going on is some of these old games don't do that. So, like, in Ultima's case, it's graphics, and I hate when people want to remake games for graphics because it's usually nothing valuable. Like I enjoy Final Fantasy VII Remake, but it's not as good as Final Fantasy VII, even though I absolutely love how they, like, instead of remaking the game, they sort of twisted it in the same way that the Evangelion films I've seen twisted the old Evangelion anime to be like, fuck you, everyone telling us to remake this. It's great. But in the old case of Ultima, that game is like 15 years older than I am, and the graphics really are tough. Like, you really have to understand what you see. And it's not like in a rogue manner where it's ASCII and you get to feel cool when you understand it. It's just shitty art drawn by a programmer. So the Ultima series, I think, needs to be remade with improved graphics. Ultima 1 and 2 need to actually have the stories that Ultima 3 gave them, because 1 and 2 don't really have stories. They're fun, but Ultima 3 retroactively gives a story to Ultima 1 of rescuing a world from an evil wizard, and 2 of the evil wizard's underage girlfriend, because I think they thought it was hot at the time, but it isn't, and it really makes the wizard gross, which I think is a good thing. Villains should be gross. But she comes to Earth to hunt you down and cause you problems. And then in Ultima 3, you go deal with their evil computer demon child. Like, those need the stories ramped up in addition to graphics upgrades. 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 7 Part 2 pretty much just need graphics and inventory updates. Although I think modern inventories can learn a little bit of something for immersivity in Ultima 7's inventory, even though it becomes very quickly an absolute nightmare of bags inside bags inside bags. So, like, we need to, learn lessons we forgot from that game and then improve them. And then Ultima 8, they need to remake it with the original plot because this remade plot is stupid. But Riven, like, most of the Myst games aren't worth remaking, right? Myst 3, 4, 5, Uru, they're kind of bleh, not great games. But Riven definitely needs remaking because Riven is a masterpiece of immersive puzzles and storytelling. I want to just stream Riven sometime and rant about it because Riven wasn't my first hyperfixation, like as an autistic gal, but it was one of my early, long-lasting hyperfixations was Riven and Riven lore. But as I saw in Shill's attempt to stream it last night, decisions it's made back then haven't aged well. Apparently it's really hard to tell what are buttons and levers, where are paths and not paths. And I think giving it the Real Myst treatment, but not like Real Myst did, because Real Myst is kind of garbage, could definitely improve it. But doing so, you'd have to do the things that they didn't for Real Myst. Real Myst like takes the Myst Island, downgrades the graphics, makes it so you can WASD-ish your way around the world, and it's clunky and it's awkward. And because they don't revamp the island, it's simultaneously easy to get lost and very claustrophobic because Myst Island isn't actually very large. And I think some things on Riven might have that. And other things like it only takes a couple clicks to get across the bridge at the Golden Dome Island. But if you look at it, that bridge is long. And I think if you have to walk back and forth across that bridge, you get so sick of it. So they probably like have to make that smaller. Probably have to make the jungle paths in the jungle area a little wider so that you don't feel claustrophobic. Because, I mean, there's places I think you want to feel claustrophobic. You don't see it in this run because it's just for figuring out the answer to the final marble puzzle, but the map island, I think, should feel claustrophobic when you're underneath it in the tunnels. The little dome tunnel where you turn right instead of left, or you turn left instead of right after closing the doors on Boiler Island. That should feel claustrophobic. I guess maybe that walkway to the fan on Boiler Island should feel a little claustrophobic in that it should be, feel rickety and dangerous. So, but like, it wouldn't be an instant thing. You'd have to do work. And I don't think it'd be profitable, so I don't think we'll ever see it. But there's lots of old games like that need remaking. And a great example of something that really didn't need to be remade, but has been remade twice in a great way is Exile. Exile's like another game I had as a kid because it was freeware. So you could play up to a certain point, and it would be like, buy the game. And my big brother was like, here's how you hack it. So, spoiler, I totally pirated Exile 1 and 2 as a kid. They were like the first things I pirated. Oh no. I mean, I own all of the Avernum games now, and I think I actually own all of Exile on GOG. But yeah, Avernum is a remake of Exile. I don't know why they changed the name. I think there was a copyright issue for that name that came up during the remaking. But they just upgraded the graphics and improved the gameplay slightly, although one of the things they upgraded was they removed inns. But then they didn't actually remove some pop-ups related to inns, so you can get confused trying to mess with inns in Avernum. And then they remade it again into, I have it too. Avernum 1 got remade into Avernum Escape from the Pit, I think. no. But yeah. Yeah, story and world building is important for Riven and Mist. And also, you don't have any knowledge of these characters from Mist is the big thing, right? Like, the only stuff you get from Mist is Atris exists, pretty much. During Mist, you learn to care about Sirius and Akinar, and you probably actually like one more than the other, although you kind of hate both because they're both kind of shady. And then, like, at the end of Mist, you meet Atris, and either you trust him or you go, I don't trust you, and then you get a good ending or a bad ending based on whether or not you trust Atris immediately. And that's like the end of Mist. Yeah. So like you knew what you know. And that's definitely a weakness of Riven. The point of engagement is supposed to be, I'm lost in this other world, and if I can figure out how this is, I can finally get back to Earth, which is really funny because the implication is you've been stuck hanging out in Duni with Atris between games, and I forget exactly where, but Duni is like under Utah. Duni is a secret, hollow Earth advanced civilization under Utah. So you've been on Earth the whole time. You just had to, excavate some things and go to the surface. It's funny. But yeah, that is a point of engagement. I don't think a remake would help with that too much. Unless they like redid that opening and tried to make you care more about Atris and Catherine. Yeah, I noticed you were really annoyed about how the stranger. That's because you're supposed to be the stranger. Like, that's a choice, and that's there in Mist and in all the later games. The player character doesn't have dialogue or flavor or anything, and is always referred to in gender-neutral terms because the developers want you to insert yourself as the player character. Which is like, yeah, it's like, well, okay, why do I want to go home? Home sucks. Yeah, it's weird. Also, the player character is very hilariously aquaphobic, like in all of the games, and I love imagining because I'm gonna get there real quick. We're not doing speedrun anything. I want to show this. This is going to be hard to explain without seeing it, but if we go see it, I think it'll be funny. Yeah, the motivation of the player is to explore and learn. But that was a decision they made, and it made sense, I think, in the 90s, but it might make sense to define your motivation better or something. But yeah, the player character is so aquaphobic. So it makes this scene down here, which I'm not going to scare the Sunners this time. Shill, you scare the Sunners every time, and I did during the speedrun, but we're not going to scare them this time. Oh yeah, this is definitely not the game for you. Hi. I think it's supposed to be angry at us for coming close, but I can't help but feel like the wife is dead, and it's sad. Then we turn and it goes away. They go swimming away. Yeah, character's hilariously aquaphobic, so I can't help but imagine, like, at this moment, the character's going, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, water. I need to see the eye. There's water. Oh no, ah. And panicking. And that just makes this particular area funny to me. But yeah. There are a lot of fantasy worlds. Riven, though, I like Riven. Riven is not a very generic world. And there's a lot going on. Like, I'm going to go to a place that you went to in your stream, and this was after I fell asleep, but I watched the rest of it this morning because I wanted to see how you did. But you came through over here and were like, I can look to the side and down, but only here. I don't get it. But like, if you remember, Riven is coming apart. And so this is one of the visual indicators that Riven as a world is dying and tearing apart. That there's this hole all the way to the core. And that's why they let you turn and look, is because they've told you the world is dying, and then they want you to be able to see it. And I mean, it's not your thing, but I think this is a really cool bit of environmental storytelling, because I don't think as a kid I comprehended the world is dying. Yeah, and that's the mechanics thing. Like, this definitely could do with the realist treatment, where you'd be able to look around like this were a shooter and walk, and you might be restricted in where you can walk. Like, obviously you probably wouldn't be able to walk off here, or maybe we make it so you can walk, and you can walk right off there and burn. I can get that. That's definitely just like a different vibe for a world. And, or not a world, but a different game area. And there's so much environmental detail that actually ends up being important. Like the puzzle to get into Tay, I just zoomed through because I know the answer. But there's a piece of environmental detail. I hope it is still here. And that's important. That's important. Tay, the world where the rebels go. That's it's really short every time I'm there because there's not much to do there. But you go to Tay, and there's, you know, this big tree in the middle with a hive in it, because it's based off of the old Riven tree, which is dead in this game, because Gen wrote Riven bad and Riven is dying. And then when the tree started to die, Gen just relocated the villagers to Jungle Island because you like trees. Let's take you to a place with lots of trees. You get more than the one sacred tree you had. And let's chop down your sacred tree, make it paper. You all go away. Oh no. I guess I am not going to go show why that buzz noise is important. Because, well, you've seen it. The number 2 eye, when you flip it, it makes a noise, and it's the same noise that the bug made. And then the water's in the shape of the bug, so you can see the shape of the animal and hear the noise of the animal. Yeah. But yeah, and And well, if you got it on... Oh, no, it doesn't... It shows the Sunners now. Oh, well. Yeah, Tay is the moiety age, the age that... I'm saying the moiety age like you know who the moiety are. You have to read Catherine's journal to know who the moiety are. The moiety are Rivenese rebels who Catherine organized and was like, no, Gen isn't a god, and my husband isn't a demon. Because Catherine's Rivenese. We never saw her because I skipped the cutscene, but she's meant to be Rivenese, although the Rivenese person in the door, I think, is a Chinese actress, and Catherine, I'm pretty sure, is a white actress because the 90s. And so the moiety are a Rivenese rebel sect out to try to overthrow Gen and evacuate everyone to Tay, because Tay is a world Catherine wrote, and Catherine can write. The game is slightly ableist, and it sort of implies that the greatest failing Gen has is not being an abusive father, it's not being a god complex egomaniac, it's not being a weird colonial asshole, it's that he can't read and write. It's like, no, Gen's like dyslexic. And that definitely motivates other things, but that's not bad to be dyslexic. Yeah, it's from the 90s. I mean, you're not going to get something from the 90s without something problematic. I think its treatment of colonialism isn't a terrible thing, though. Like, it treats them as people who are there and exploited and able to get their own liberation, because the player never liberates the Rivenese. The Rivenese liberation is on the go. The person from the opening cutscene who takes your book, that's one of Gen's guards, and then the person who knocks him out and takes the book from him is moiety, which is why you get your prison book back when you go to Tay. But like, they're active, they're liberating themselves when you arrive. They're just not super fast at the liberation because Catherine, who again is Rivenese, so she's not from outside the world, is driving their liberation. So they're liberating themselves. And Catherine's almost like a Ho Chi Minh type figure, because Ho Chi Minh in his youth went to France, went to Europe, studied stuff in Europeans in the same way that Catherine sort of goes with Atris and does the Denis thing. Because they fall in love and it's a romance rather than a politically motivated thing like Ho Chi Minh. But I love that there's that parallel of the colonized peoples liberating themselves with the aid of a colonized person who has taken the time to learn how the colonizer works so they can strike at the colonizer's weak points. And then when you free Catherine, bam, she burns everything, everything works. I forget if you can go back to Jungle Island the slow way or not at that point. That's something I might want to look at. But, you know, she gets free. She's like, hey, Gen's gone, let's get everyone to Tay, and you go. I mean, all that you as a player character do to help their revolution is you handle Gen for them. And you're not doing it for them, you're doing it selfishly, and all it does is speed up their timetable. Because it probably wouldn't have been long until the moiety decided, Catherine can die, who cares, and offed Gen on their own. And once they offed Gen, they'd evacuate everyone to Tay. I don't know, it's great. There's a lot of lore there. And there's a fourth journal, I forgot about that one. Although I didn't even look at it in this game, because you have the first journal that you read, that Atris gives you, that gives you the backstory, and mentions offhand the stranger coming to Mist, which is the player. You get the journal that Catherine gives you, which outlines the struggle of the moiety and has the passcode for the telescope. And you can get a bad end to the game, like right when you get that journal. You have Gen's journal in his office, which is sort of Gen's sane journal. And you have Gen's personal journal in his bedroom. And it is unhinged. It is, like, it's great. But yeah, I should probably kill this stream and go to my cold room because it is getting hot in